Hello learners, today our topic of study is Age of Chaucer, the period which extends from 1340 to 1400 is called the Age of Chaucer because Geoffrey Chaucer, the great poet, dominated the period. He belongs to the Middle English period, which extends from 1066 to 1500 AD. He is rightly called the morning star of Renaissance. He is also called the father of English poetry. He was born in the reign of Edward III, lived through the reign of Richard II, and died in the reign of Henry IV. As such, the Age of Chaucer is full of historical events. This period is also marked by some important literary works of some remarkable writers. This period is also greatly marked by the biography of Chaucer and his contribution to English language and literature. In this session, we will be able to talk about the history of the age. The history of the Age of Chaucer is characterized by three major events. They are Hundred Years' War, Black Death, and Peasants' Revolt of 1381. Hundred Years' War. The conflicts between England and France that occurred between 1337 and 1453 are generally known as Hundred Years' War. There were some reasons for the outbreak of the hostilities between England and France in the reign of Edward III. The main reason was the attempt of the French king Philip VI to oust the English from Gascony and Guyana. These two provinces of France were still held by England, and so the design of the French king greatly embittered his relations with Edward. Again, the French king threatened the wool trade of England by trying to capture Flanders, which was the best market for English wool. Moreover, the cause of conflict was the fierce contest between the French and English sailors in the channel lying between France and England. These were the main causes of the War of 100 Years or 100 Years' War. But the ostensible or pretended cause of 100 Years' War was the claim put forward by Edward to the French crown. His mother was the sister of the last French king, Charles IV, who had died without any male issue. Edward contended that through his mother he was the nearest heir to the French crown. Hence, his claim was better than that of the French King Philip. But the French refused to recognize his claim, and so by 1338 the two countries drifted into a war. The 100 Years' War broke out actually in 1338 and lasted with occasional breaks till 1453. It was not a continuous struggle. Speaking generally, for about a century, the relation between England and France was not satisfactory at all. That is why the 100 Years' War is so called. The War of Edward was a national enterprise. It was very popular in England as it held out the prospects of plunder to the English and gave security to their trade in wool with Flanders. In course of the war, Edward won a naval battle of Sluis and achieved a command over the English Channel for many years. He obtained a victory over France at Crécy. He also obtained a victory over the French at Calais, and thereby he secured a gateway to France for invasion in future. Then the Black Prince, the eldest son of Edward, obtained a great victory over the French at Poitiers. At that time, the French king was taken prisoner. The Treaty of Bretigny was made in 1360, and by it the French king John was released for a large sum of money. Edward gave up his claim to the French crown, and in return he captured the whole of Aquitaine, along with Calais and Ponthieu. The Treaty of Bretigny marked the highest point of Edward's success in France. The prestige of England rose high. She obtained a lot of substantial gains. She was now in a position to promote wool trade and to capture the wine business of Gascony. But those gains did not prove to be permanent. The Black Prince, the eldest son of Edward III, resided in Aquitaine as its governor and was induced to lead an invasion to Spain in support of Pedro the Cruel against his revolted subjects. He came back loaded with debt as Pedro refused to pay the cost of his expedition. Then the Black Prince had to raise money by imposing heavy tax on his friends' subjects. Finding no alternative, the French subjects appealed to the French king Charles IV. The French king summoned the Black Prince to answer for his conduct, but the refusal of the Black Prince to appear before the French court gave rise to a renewal of the war. This time, the French king avoided a peace war and cut off their supplies. He began to harass the English in different ways. Meanwhile, England lost its command over the English Channel owing to a naval defeat by a Spanish fleet. France began to recover her lost possessions. Only Bordeaux and Calais remained to England. Thus, 100 Years' War proved to be disastrous. In both England and France, it arrested the social, moral, and economic progress. It demoralized the character of the combatants. The only outcome of the war was Calais and Bordeaux, which remained to England. Now, another important event of the age of Chaucer was Black Death. Black Death refers to the terrible plague which broke out in England towards the close of the year 1348. Then Chaucer was only 9 years old. The plague lasted only a year. The plague caused by black rats carried off 1/3 of the population. Because of the Black Death, there was a crisis of labor. The laborers demanded higher wages, and the landlords felt a great difficulty. To reduce the hardship of the landlords, legislation became necessary to keep down wages. In 1351, the Parliament passed a law making it illegal for the employers to pay and for the laborers to demand higher wages than was customary before Black Death. But this statute did not hold good. As the price of corn grew high, the laborers would not work on the old rate of wages. The landowners then tried to force the villains to work without accepting money for their personal service. This revival of villainess or serfdom gave rise to a great discontent among the laboring classes, and it resulted in the war or revolt of the peasants. Another result or effect of Black Death was the rise of sheep farming. When the laborers demanded higher wages, the landowners started sheep farming, and they began to convert their arable lands into pastures for the sheep to supply more wool. The third important event of this was Peasants' Revolt of 1381. The original cause of the Peasants' Revolt was the discontent among the laboring classes since the Black Death. But the immediate cause of this revolt was the poll tax upon everyone above the age of 15. The leaders of the revolt were Wat Tyler and Jack Straw. The revolt lasted less than a month. The claims of the rebels were reduction in taxes, an end to the system of unfree labor known as serfdom or villainess, enforcement of less harsh laws in the country, and removal of the king's high officials. These claims of the rebels were encouraged by the preaching of John Ball, a priest who spread the doctrine that all men were born equal and had equal rights. The dissatisfied peasants, the agitated laborers, rose in arms from every corner of the country. They marched towards London. They captured the capital city and caused death and destruction on all sides. But this revolt was subdued. This revolt was frustrated by the bravery as well as the treachery of the boy king Richard II. First, he wanted to realize the demands of the peasants, but later on, he did not keep his promise. He betrayed the laborers. The leaders of the revolt were hanged, and the peasantry was crushed with an iron hand. However, the peasants' revolt of 1381 was successful to some extent in its purpose. The barons learned a good lesson. The workmen became free. In other words, villainous or serfdom was removed from the country. Less harsh laws were enforced in the country. Thus, the demands of money for the poor, freedom and equality were materialized, and all these claims were a part of democracy. Thus, all these three important events of the age of Chaucer has characterized the age of Chaucer, the period of Chaucer. No more today. Thank you all.